This is what I'm trying to, what Dale and I should say, because he's on the same boat. Like, this is what we're trying to promote and encourage you guys to do. Is you get a gun built or buy a new one or whatever. You get it in the spring or in the winter. You get out to where you can start shooting in the spring. You start working on a load. You get something decent. Don't spend the rest of the year leading up to your hunt dinking around at the reloading bench and at 100 yards trying to make them all go in the same hole. It's fruitless. It doesn't matter, as we saw in the technical video. It gets swallowed up in the wash if you don't figure out all your other stuff. So if you start working on a load and you think it shows promise, go stretch it out and see if you have something. And when we get to those videos, I'll show you what to look for, but go see if you have something viable and if you have something that's worth putting more time into. Hey guys, Tim with Little Crow Gunworks. Welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to talk about 7PRC and the follow-up groups that we shot after we shot our initial sweet spot groups, and we'll look at which ones we shot further and shot again, and then what, if we did any exploring, what exploring we did and what the results were of that. But before we get into that, I want to take a minute to say thank you to you guys for your continued support, and that technical video has been out for a few days now, and I'm getting a lot of good feedback on that. It's getting a lot of views, and you guys have been hitting the comments pretty hard, so I appreciate that. It looks like it, for the most part, it's resonating pretty well with you guys. There's as usual, because a lot of our content can be a little contentious because it's going against the industry dogma. There's a few people that are getting a sore butt here and there over what I say. Like, by example, this one. Right now we're at 202 likes and 4 dislikes, and 1 person unsubscribed. So can't please everybody, but in general, that's how this is. Like 98% of the time, all the feedback is positive. You guys are really appreciating that. I know that video was a lot, and I went through so much information in that video. I hope, for those of you that haven't seen it, I'll probably link it up in the corner here, but I hope what came through with that video was that, you know, if you're, no matter what your experience level is, like if you're an older guy that has been into shooting forever and now you got enough money in your pocket, you're thinking about going out west on a big elk hunt or whatever, and you're trying to extend your effective range, and you're everywhere you look online, it's like, okay, well, if you want to shoot long range, you need the gun to shoot better. Well, what does better mean? You know, you need the gun to shoot better, but what does that mean? Does that mean all the bullets need to go in the same hole? And then you end up, no matter what age you are, I guess, you end up going down this rabbit hole of like, okay, well, if I want to shoot long range, I need my gun to shoot really well. Well, if this is good, more is better, and more is better, and more is better, and pretty soon you're going to be going out west for the first time or whatever, and you're thinking, okay, I might encounter a 300, 400, 500 yard shot, and you're spending all your time watching guys like Eric Cortina and, you know, people like him. I mean, this isn't to disparage him at all. I really like Eric Cortina. I think he puts out a lot of good content, and I like that he doesn't take himself too seriously, but he puts out a lot of good information. But he's a 1,000-yard F-class guy, and 95% of what he talks about, like, you got to do this, and you got to do that, and this is important, and that's important. Like, if you might try to go shoot an elk at 400 yards, almost everything that comes out of his mouth is irrelevant to you. I mean, it is. Like, those guys are trying to get the last little nth of precision. Well, if you're going down the path of, okay, I need my gun to shoot better, and you're pushing it to the point where you're doing stuff that they recommend, like you're looking in the wrong place, you know. And if you're trying to like get your gun to pound them all in the same hole, but you've never actually gone out and shot long range, or you've done it once or twice or whatever, like you're losing the forest for the trees. Like you're hyper fixated on this one little thing because it's, you know, it's going to be good if I get them all to go in the same hole. Well, that's, I hope what came through in that technical video is that's going to get lost if you don't actually go out and improve your skill and actually learn how to shoot long range and learn how to read wind and learn how to use your equipment and figure out their shortcomings and get a system in place so you can start working the bugs out of the system and figure out where your inadequacies are. Spending hundreds of rounds or thousands of rounds or whatever the number is, dollars, rounds, whatever, at 100 yards doing load development, you're looking in the wrong place. Like if you haven't shot a lot at long range and you're already to the point where you can read wind plus or minus that 2.5 miles an hour, which was the best level that we put on that video, if you're not at that point before you're trying to get your groups below 3/4, you're looking in the wrong place. So I hope that's what came through, is that like I see how it can be, you know, if 1 inch is good, 3/4 is better, and if 3/4 is good, half is better. I see how you can get in that trap. I've been in that trap myself. But in the big picture, doesn't matter. So, and you'll see, like when we go into these groups, you'll see me talking about that. Like, I'm not hyper fixated on getting the teeniest group, because I know for reasonable hunting ranges, it's not that important. So, I think we'll jump into the analyzing the groups here. Let me get my screen recording fired up here. 3, 2, 1, and we're live. Got this little guy stumbling around my stand. I'm hoping I get to meet him here in a couple months. All right, what do we have here? So our first sweet spot, so I'm going to try to show this in like a linear fashion where like I'll show the sweet spot we started with. So we started with this, and then if we shot it again, how it shot subsequent times. Or if we started with this and then we decided to explore, where we went. And then we'll figure out where we land at the end. So the trend you're going to see on this, for this gun and for the 7mm mag, not so much with the 280 and the 28 Nosler, because those guns were broke in before we really started getting into this nitty-gritty testing, where the 7 PRC and the 7mm mag, I basically got those guns zeroed and maybe put 20 rounds through them and then started shooting those 10-shot ladders. So that's a long way of saying that it's in your best interest, if you want to save yourself some time and headache, to break the gun in like significantly before you start shooting ladder tests. What do I mean by that? Even if you're going to hand load, you know, find, let's say you're not going to hand load. Buy 100 rounds of something, some match ammo or whatever. It's going to depend on the cartridge you have, but buy 100 rounds that are all the same, you know, 5 boxes, whatever, that aren't what you're going to use for hunting. Just match whatever, something you can shoot target practice with. Go out, sight the gun in, use the first box to sight the gun in and shoot groups and get an idea of what kind of, you know, basically you want to try to get the zero to stop moving around and then get an idea of what kind of precision it shoots with that ammo. Get a good zero with that ammo. So if it takes you 20 or 30 rounds to do that, to get a good zero, get the groups to stop wandering around and get a good zero, and get velocity information and get a decent group size, whatever, then take the remainder of that ammo and go out and practice at long range. So just get a good zero, get a velocity, go out with your 17 by 12 or, you know, even bigger piece of steel, pick a distance based on that last video, like kind of where you should be, what bucket you should be in, and get your plate out there and practice cold calls, practice reading wind, and just get 100 rounds through the barrel before you start worrying about doing your load testing. Same thing if you're hand loading. Get a box of 100 bullets of just a match bullet or a target bullet or whatever, and pick a load out of a manual or use Gordon's or whatever. Just load a middle of the road load. Not hot, not cold, not whatever. Throw 100 rounds of it together. Go out, sight the gun in. Same thing. Get a good zero. Shoot some groups. See what kind of precision it has. And it doesn't matter what it shoots. If it shoots 1.5, an inch and a half for 3 shots, or inch and a quarter, an inch, or whatever. Get a good zero. See what kind of groups it shoots. And what kind of velocity metrics it has. And then get your piece of steel out at 300, 400, 500 yards, whatever the number is, whatever bucket that ammo falls into. Get out there and practice. And burn up 100 rounds, learning how to read wind better, and getting some long range practice in, and getting out and using your equipment, and getting out and doing it. And then once you have 100 rounds down the barrel, then you can go out and shoot these 10-shot ladders and start doing your load development. Why do I say that? Well, because these guns, we basically put 20 rounds through and then started shooting the ladders and got velocity data. But then as we came back and shot all the groups again, like shot the subsequent tests, even though we weren't changing the load, the velocity was migrating. And you're going to see that. Because the barrels weren't broke in yet, they were still speeding up. And so every time I'd take the same load out, it'd shoot different and it'd shoot faster. So then I was like kind of trying to hit a moving target and, chase it around, and you're going to see that. So, all right, let's get into this. So this first group was with Hodgdon 4831 shortcut, sweet spot number 1. So this was the first time we shot this sweet spot, and we said that we were going to shoot it again to see how it did. So the first time we shot it, this was the slowest one. It was 2950 early in the barrel's life. SD at 2.2, extreme spread of 5, shot a 692. Very respectable. Worth shooting again. Then later in the barrel's life, when it had sped up, we shot it again. 2990. So the average went up 40 feet a second. Standard deviation still good. 3.6, extreme spread of 8, all still good. But it, I'm going to say, blew apart to 1.387. Could I drop charge weights and chase it around? Yes. Did I? No. And I'll show you why. So then the second sweet spot from our original testing was 3029. And if you remember, we were kind of trying to target just over 3,000 feet a second, because that's what the initial ladder test told us where it was going to want to shoot. And our first two sweet spots kind of went around that 3,000 feet a second. It was 2950 and 3030. So we kind of leapfrogged it. So then I decided to take this load and load down, trying to relocate that 3010, 3005-ish foot per second sweet spot. So I took this load and I loaded 0.3 of a grain less, 0.6 of a grain less, 0.9 of a grain less, and this is how it shot. So it shot these 3 groups right here. The winner there in the middle was 0.6 of a grain less, which is this. So when I shot 0.3 of a grain less, it shot decent. 0.6 shot this, and then 0.9 it started opening up again. But this one in the middle that shot the best also got us back into that velocity range that we were looking for. So we were looking for the original 3,009 feet per second. When I took 0.6 of a grain out of it, we relocated it. 3,012, SD 9.8, ES 24, and shot a 476. Damn good. So I was like, okay, now we relocated it. I hope the velocity is done migrating and the barrel's done speeding up. I'm gonna go back and shoot it again. So I shot it a second time. So this is so we found it on the last group. This is us finding it. Went and shot it again. That's verification number 1. Shot damn good again. 30-19, still speeding up a tiny bit. SD 8.8, ES a 20, and shot a 5.11. And it's a perfect little triangle again. Very good. Oh, and the thing I should point out too, you know, initially I told you guys that when you're doing this, you want to watch for consistent point of impact relative to your point of aim. So every time you take it out, you want it to hit in the same place. Well, I didn't have the luxury of being able to do that because I'm shooting however many different loads with however many different powders and 2 different factory ammos, and I have to try to make sure that when I'm out testing that they all stay on the paper so I'm not losing shots. So throughout this process, I kept having to tweak and move the zero to make sure stuff wasn't flying off the paper. So I didn't have the same luxury that you guys will, because you're not going to be, you know, doing 4 different guns at a time with however many different loads and factory ammos. Like, you won't be in the same nightmare that I'm in. I guess this is a roundabout way of saying we won't be testing 4 guns again at a time because it's too much of a hassle. So second group shot really good. Third time we went out, put 2 together, threw 1 out. Not ideal, but you know, could have been a bad bullet. I could have done something wrong. Who knows? I don't put too much stock in that. That's why I keep going out and shooting it multiple times to make sure I can start to trust it. So 30-21, velocity didn't move much from the previous time I shot it. Standard deviation 7.8, extreme spread of 17, shot just over 1 MOA, 1.134. But for my own benefit, I was like, okay, I want to make sure this thing isn't falling apart. Took it out, shot it again for the 4th time. 30-34, and I adjusted the zero too because I wanted to center up a little better. 30-34, SD of 1.2, ES of 3, and shot a 398. Doesn't get much better than that. So this load is showing me enough promise that it makes the cut to be stretched out at long range. So this is one we're going to test. And then after, we'll show you the linear path to get there. Next one, N560. This one, I think, was the 2nd smallest group size for initial sweet spot testing. And we only got 1 sweet spot with N560. It was at 30-15, standard deviation 6.6, extreme spread of 16, shot a 373. Doesn't get much better than that. And then I took it out and shot it again. And I remember the things were starting to migrate. This one, though, the velocity stayed pretty consistent, but obviously something was changing because you'll see, I mean, 373, second group, 820. Velocity is the same, metrics are still good. Open up to 820, 2 together, 1 out. Not happy about something. Third group, about the same. Velocity is still consistent. Standard deviation starting to get unhappy. ES starting to get unhappy. Group about 833. What was the last one? 820, about the same. 2 together, 1 out. All right. I better take it out a 4th time. See if I can trust this thing, because it's the first group was tiny and then the next 2 got bigger. So what's this thing trying to tell me? Kablooey. Same load, same everything. Didn't change anything. Just how many rounds were on the barrel. 30-36, so that sped up a little bit from where it started. Velocity metrics are still about the same as it was for the last group, but completely blew apart to 2.120. Could I chase this around and start taking powder out of it to try to get back to that 373 that it shot initially when I know the pressure was lower, even though the velocity is not that much different? That's what's happening, is every time I take it out, when there's more rounds on the barrel, the pressure's higher. So it's, even though the velocity is not changing much, it's pushing me out of my sweet spot that I was in, and it's getting unhappy, as you can see by the velocity metrics getting worse. So yeah, I look at ES. That's another thing I should say. Like, everybody looks at standard deviation and extreme spread. I basically don't care about standard deviation. I Just look at extreme spread. So the ES started at 16, then 12, still good. Then it jumped up to 36 and then 32. So it's not happy about something. Like I say, even though the velocity is not that much different, the ES is telling me it's not happy, and the groups are telling me the same thing. So I decided not to chase that one around because I had other candidates that made the cut, and I don't have infinite resources to just chase all these loads around. So I decided not to pursue that one any further. Decided to cut bait. And the next one, this was our initial sweet spot number 1 with IMR 7828 super shortcut. This was our slower one, 2943, SD 4.3, S10 468, really good. Worth shooting again. 2 together, 1 out. You know, and maybe that's because it's not totally crazy about the seating depth I'm using or something. Shot it again. Faster. So we went from 2943 to 2974. Still 2 together, 1 out. A little bit bigger. Velocity metrics are still good. So this thing's telling me that there's something to it here. It's pounding 2 together tight like that, and the velocity metrics are this good. You know, like I said in the last technical video, don't get hung up on trying to get them all in the same hole. You know, this is basically almost exactly 3/4 MOA, which we saw in the last video that if it stays under that, that's good enough for 600 yards. So, so that one I only shot it a second time and decided to stretch that out. Then this third one was, or the second sweet spot, this shot the smallest. Remember when I said at the end of the last 7 PRC video, don't tie yourself to one wagon. Like, don't put all your eggs in one basket just because this one shot the best. That doesn't mean that that's automatically the best load. You got to take it out and shoot it again to make sure. So just because it shot, you know, 174, that doesn't mean that's the best load. We got to shoot it again. So we took it out and shot it the second time. Blew apart to 956. Velocity did increase a little bit, but again, we know the pressure is increasing because the barrel's speeding up. It's faster, the ES is worse, and the group completely blew apart. And I thought, well, try it again. Now it's even faster. 30-20, 2 together, 1 out. Was this one 2 together, 1 out? Nope, that was pretty much a triangle. 2 together, 1 out. 30-20, ES of 22, 789. Not terrible, but it's not a 174. And then I shot it again. It's still bigger than we want it to be, but not terrible. 30-32, SD 11.8, ES of 28, shot an 855. And I decided not to pursue this one again because that H4831 shot so well. I kind of had the highest hopes for that one, and I just wanted one other one to stretch out. And although I only shot it twice, I felt better about this lower 7828 load because despite the fact that the velocity went up by the average velocity went up by 31 feet a second, the ES still stayed really low, and it stayed, you know, under 0.800. So I was like, well, I have a little more faith in that one. We'll stretch that one out. So that's what we ended up shooting at longer range, was the slower 7828, and then this 4831 shortcut load. And then we also shot the 160 grain CX factory ammo, Hornady Outfitter factory ammo at long range, and the 175 ELDX Precision Hunter. So those are the 4 that we ended up stretching out, which is a production in and of itself, trying to get all that on paper and get it on camera, and like, it's a ton of work. So now that we went through that, I want to spend a little bit of time talking about the linear path that it took to get there. All right, so linear path, what do I mean by that? Well, kind of like what I was talking about earlier in the video, is that you know, you get hyper fixated on trying to make the gun shoot as small as possible because that's what everybody else is telling you that you need in order to be able to shoot long range, and I'm like the only one telling you that it's not the most important thing. So what do I mean by linear path? Well, let's look at this. So we look at the hand load that we had with H4831 shortcut. We did our 10-shot ladder, and albeit, you know, I should have made sure the barrel was more broken before I did any of this, but anyway, I figured this would be a problem. I didn't say that, but I thought this would be a problem, starting with basically a brand new barrel doing this, but I figured I'd just deal with it, and it was a problem, and I dealt with it, but I won't be doing this again. We'll make sure the barrel's broken before we do another one of these. Anyway, did our 10-shot ladder, gathered our initial sweet spots and shot those, and then we had to explore a little bit with that one load and then verify. So to get to that sweet spot number 2 that we're now going to shoot at 640 yards at low elevation on paper, which is like 740 yards or thereabouts in the mountains, look at the path we had to take to get there. So I went from having never loaded for a 7 PRC, let alone with this powder, did a 10-shot ladder, used my method to pick the sweet spots, shot those, and then had to explore. So we found that we shot sweet spot number 2 minus 0.6 grains. To get to that load, it was our 10-shot ladder. We shot 3 shots testing that sweet spot, the initial one. Then we shot another 9 shots exploring. So we shot 3 tenths under, 6 tenths under, 9 tenths under. And then we shot 3 rounds for verification number 1, 3 for verification number 2, and 3 for verification number 3. So basically starting from scratch to the point where I'm ready to go shoot it at 640 yards, I fired 31 shots to get there. So I don't know what you guys are doing, but I'm gonna guess there's almost nobody watching this video that started from scratch, and 31 shots later you're stretching it out to any distance, really. You know, with the standard load development methods that are out there and all the different ways you can try to find a load, I'm gonna guess very few of you guys are chucking it down at long range after only 31 shots. And I really highly doubt that you tested the same load 4 times, you know, that 12 of those shots are shooting the same thing over and over. And that was, we had to dink around to find it. N560, we did our 10-shot ladder, tested our initial sweet spot, and verified. So sweet spot number 1, there only was one. So we did our 10-shot ladder, 3 shots to check the sweet spot, which it shot really good. Shot 1, 2, 3 verifications. We were 22 shots in to figure out it ain't worth chasing around. 22 shots, pretty low investment. 7828 super shortcut, same thing, 10-shot ladder, initial sweet spot test, and verify. Sweet spot number 1, so we got our 10-shot ladder, 3 shots to try the initial sweet spot, then I shot it again to verify. I got, what was it, a 468 and a 784 with an ES of 9 and an ES of 10. Pfft, good enough for me. 16 shots to find that load. So this is what I'm trying to, like, I hope you guys are picking this up, but this is what I'm trying to, what Dale and I should say, because he's on the same boat. Like, this is what we're trying to promote and encourage you guys to do, is you get a gun built or buy a new one or whatever, you get it in the spring or in the winter, you get out to where you can start shooting in the spring, you start working on a load, you get something decent. Don't spend the rest of the year leading up to your hunt dinking around at the reloading bench and at 100 yards trying to make them all go in the same hole. It's fruitless. It doesn't matter, as we saw in the technical video. It gets swallowed up in the wash if you don't figure out all your other stuff. So if you start working on a load and you think it shows promise, go stretch it out and see if you have something. And when we get to those videos, I'll show you what to look for, but go see if you have something viable and if you have something that's worth putting more time into. Because Dale says this, and a lot of people, depending on who you talk to, like, loads fall apart all the time. You can have something that shoots great at 100 yards, and you take it out to long range, and it looks like a 410 with buckshot. Like, you can barely stay on a trash can at 600 yards. Well, that ain't gonna cut it, and what if you spent a ton of time to get to that point, and you had all your eggs in that basket, and now your hunt's in 3 weeks or whatever, 2 weeks or 2 days or whatever, and you finally take it out and check it at long range, and it sucks. Now what? Like, don't spend your whole summer screwing around with your load. Get a few contenders that you think show some promise. Go out and stretch them out at long range. I just shot two groups with each on paper, and that's all I'm doing for all the loads. So I have a sample of 2 groups, but that's because I'm shooting so many guns and so, like, whatever. You don't have that same limitation. You can shoot a lot more, but get out and test it and see if what you have is worth putting more time into, and let that be the deciding factor, and let that pick the winners and losers. Don't let your 100-yard metrics paint you into a corner, like that first 78 or that faster 78-28 sweet spot that shot a 174. I'm betting most of you guys saw that and you're like, well, why is he dicking around with these other loads when he's got something that shot a 174? He should be putting all his time and effort into that. Well, what happened to that load? Friggin' wheels fell off. What if I would have put all my time into that? And, like, I've done this too many times. I know, like, nothing's guaranteed. You have to take it out and shoot it multiple times and build trust with it and see what happens. Now, would that load have stayed together if the barrel was already broken when we started? Yeah, it might have. And that's why I'm telling you guys, like, get out, put 100 rounds down the barrel before you put anything meaningful down it. And so many guys say that. A lot of the big name guys say that, like, get 100 rounds on the barrel before you put anything important on it. And you guys are going to see, like, this and the 7 mag had the same problem. I'm chasing stuff around and it was a pain in the butt. But anyway, I don't want this to be too long because we got to do one for each of the guns and show the subsequent testing. But because this is the first one after that technical video, I wanted to talk about that a little bit more and drive home the point that don't get lost at the reloading bench and at 100-yard range trying to make them all go in the same hole with the tiniest ES. It doesn't matter. If you're trying to keep your shots within reasonable ranges, you're wasting your time. Go out and practice. It's worth way more. So that's all I got for this one. Thanks, guys. If there's anything that you want to know that I left out, leave it down in the comments. I'll get back to you. We'll see you on the next one. Thanks.